Chapter 15 of 813. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. 813 by Maurice Leblanc. Chapter 15. The Map of Europe. Pierre Leduc loved Dolores. Lupin felt a keen, penetrating pain in the depths of his being, as though he had been wounded in the very source of life. A pain so great that, for the first time, he had a clear perception of what Dolores had gradually, unknown to himself, become to him. Pierre Leduc loved Dolores, and he was looking at her as a man looks at the woman he loves. Lupin felt a murderous instinct rise up within him, blindly and furiously. That look of love cast upon Dolores, maddened him. He received an impression of the great silence that enveloped Dolores and Pierre Leduc. And in silence, in the stillness of their attitude, there was nothing living but that look of love, that dumb and sensuous hymn, in which the eyes told all the passion, all the desire, all the transport, all the yearning that one being can feel for another. And he saw Mrs. Kesselbach also. Dolores's eyes were invisible under their lowered lids, the silky eyelids with the long black lashes. But how she seemed to feel that look of love which sought for hers! How she quivered under that impalpable caress! "She loves him! She loves him!" thought Lupin, burning with jealousy. And when Pierre made a movement: "Oh, the villain! If he dares to touch her, I will kill him!" Then, realizing the disorder of his reason and striving to combat it, he said to himself: "Oh, what a fool I am! What, you, Lupin, letting yourself go like this? Look here, it's only natural that she should love him. Yes, of course, you expected her to show a certain emotion at your arrival, a certain agitation. You silly idiot, you're only a thief, a robber, whereas he is a prince and young." Pierre had not stirred further. But his lips moved and it seemed as though Dolores were waking. Softly, slowly, she raised her lids, turned her head a little, and her eyes met the young man's eyes with the look that offers itself and surrenders itself and is more intense than the most intense of kisses. What followed came suddenly and unexpectedly, like a thunderclap. In 3 bounds, Lupin rushed into the drawing-room, sprang upon the young man, flung him to the ground and, with one hand on his rival's chest, beside himself with anger, turning to Mrs. Kesselbach, he cried: "But don't you know? Hasn't he told you, the cheat? And you love him, you love that! Does he look like a grand-duke? Oh, what a joke!" He grinned and chuckled like a madman, while Dolores gazed at him in stupefaction. He, a grand-duke, Hermann IV, Grand-Duke of Zweibrucken and Veldenz, a reigning sovereign, Elector of Treves! But it's enough to make one die of laughing! He! Why, his name is Beaupré, Gérard Beaupré, the lowest of ragamuffins, a beggar whom I picked up in the gutter. A grand-duke? But it's I who made him a grand-duke. What a joke! If you had seen him cut his little finger! He fainted 3 times. The milksop! Ah, you allow yourself to lift your eyes to ladies and to rebel against the master! Wait a bit, Grand-Duke of Zweibrucken Veldenz, I'll show you!" He took him in his arms, like a bundle, swung him to and fro for a moment and pitched him through the open window. "Mind the rose-trees, Grand-Duke. There are thorns." When he turned round, Dolores was close to him and looking at him with eyes which he had never seen in her before, the eyes of a woman who hates and who is incensed with rage. Could this possibly be Dolores, the weak, ailing Dolores? She stammered: "What are you doing? How dare you? And he... Then it's true? Lied to me?" "Lied to you!" cried Lupin, grasping the humiliation which she had suffered as a woman. "Lied to you! He, a grand-duke! A puppet, that's all, a puppet of which I pulled the string, an instrument which I tuned, to play upon as I chose. Oh, the fool, the fool!" Overcome with renewed rage, he stamped his foot and shook his fist at the open window. And he began to walk up and down the room, flinging out phrases in which all the pent-up violence of his secret thought burst forth. The fool! Then he didn't see what I expected of him? He did not suspect the greatness of the part he was to play? Oh, I shall have to drive it into his noddle by force, I see! Lift up your head, you idiot! You shall be grand-duke by the grace of Lupin, and a reigning sovereign, with a civil list, and subjects to fleece, and a palace which Charlemagne shall rebuild for you, and a master that shall be I, Lupin. Do you understand, you numbskull? Lift up your head, dash it! Higher than that! Look up at the sky. Remember that a Zweibrücken was hanged for cattle lifting before the Hohenzollerns were ever heard of. And you are a Zweibrücken, by Jove, no less. And I am here, I, Lupin. And you shall be grand duke, I tell you. A pasteboard grand duke? Very well, but a grand duke all the same, quickened with my breath and glowing with my ardor. A puppet? Very well, but a puppet that shall speak my words and make my movements and perform my wishes and realize my dreams. Yes, my dreams. He stood motionless, as though dazzled by the glory of his conception. Then he went up to Dolores and, sinking his voice, with a sort of mystic exultation, he said: "On my left, Alsace-Lorraine; on my right, Baden, Würtemberg, Bavaria, South Germany, all those disconnected, discontented states, crushed under the heel of the Prussian Charlemagne, but restless and ready to throw off the yoke at any moment. Do you understand all that a man like myself can do in the midst of that? All the aspirations that he can kindle, all the hatred that he can produce, all the angry rebellion that he can inspire?" In a still lower voice, he repeated: "And on my left, Alsace-Lorraine. Do you fully understand? Dreams? Not at all. It is the reality of the day after to morrow, of to morrow. Yes, I wish it, I wish it. Oh, all that I wish and all that I mean to do is unprecedented. Only think, at 2 steps from the Alsatian frontier, in the heart of German territory, close to the old Rhine, a little intrigue, a little genius will be enough to change the surface of the earth. Genius I have, and to spare, and I shall be the master. I shall be the man who directs. The other, the puppet, can have the title and the honours. I shall have the power. I shall remain in the background. No office. I will not be a minister, not even a chamberlain. Nothing. I shall be one of the servants in the palace, the gardener, perhaps. Yes, the gardener. Oh, what a tremendous life, to grow flowers and alter the map of Europe!" She looked at him greedily, dominated, swayed by the strength of that man; and her eyes expressed an admiration which she did not seek to conceal. He put his hands on Dolores' shoulders and said: "That is my dream. Great as it is, it will be surpassed by the facts. That I swear to you. The Kaiser has already seen what I am good for. One day he will find me installed in front of him, face to face. I hold all the trumps. Valenglay will act at my bidding. England also. The game is played and won. That is my dream. There is another one." He stopped suddenly. Dolores did not take her eyes from him; and an infinite emotion changed every feature of her face. A vast joy penetrated him as he once more felt, and clearly felt, that woman's confusion in his presence. He no longer had the sense of being to her what he was, a thief, a robber. He was a man who loved and whose love roused unspoken feelings in the depths of a friendly soul. Then he said no more, but he lavished upon her, unuttered, every known word of love and admiration; and he thought of the life which he might lead somewhere, not far from Veldenz, unknown and all powerful. A long silence united them. Then she rose and said softly: "Go away. I entreat you to go. Pierre shall marry Geneviève, I promise you that, but it is better that you should go, that you should not be here. Go. Pierre shall marry Geneviève." He waited for a moment. Perhaps he would rather have had more definite words, but he dared not ask for anything. And he withdrew, dazed, intoxicated and happy to obey, to subject his destiny to hers. On his way to the door, he came upon a low chair which he had to move. But his foot knocked against something. He looked down. It was a little pocket mirror, in ebony, with a gold monogram. Suddenly, he started and snatched up the mirror. The monogram consisted of 2 letters interlaced, an L and an M. An L and an M! "Louis de Malreich," he said to himself, with a shudder. He turned to Dolores: "Where does this mirror come from? Whose is it? It is important that I should..." She took it from him and looked at it: "I don't know. I never saw it before. A servant, perhaps." "A servant, no doubt," he said, "but it is very odd. It is one of those coincidences." At that moment, Geneviève entered by the other door and, without seeing Lupin, who was hidden by a screen, at once exclaimed: "Why, there's your glass, Dolores! So you have found it, after making me hunt for it all this time! Where was it?" And the girl went away, saying: "Oh, well, I'm very glad it's found. How upset you were! I will go and tell them at once to stop looking for it." Lupin had not moved. He was confused and tried in vain to understand.